people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A proposed showdown for the coming calendar year that was not on my bingo card. Katie Taylor versus Ronda Rousey in the works for Las Vegas Showdown in 2026. Katie Taylor and Ronda Rousey are involved in active negotiations to stage a mega bout in Las Vegas, matching the most compelling women's combat fighters of this century boxing scene has learned. Somewhat unexpected since Ronda Rousey retired from competitive sport a long time ago, and she's sort of fallen not just out of the public eye, but in many ways out of public favor due to how she handled her losses to Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, that she's somewhat of a poor sport, somewhat of a sore loser. She recently said some not so nice things about Joe Rogan, who's been nothing but supportive of her. Something along the lines of Joe Rogan is not an expert when it comes to mixed martial arts. Not that you need to be an expert to know that Holly Holm kicked her ass and Amanda Nunes kicked it also. So Ronda performed in the WWE after reigning as UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion for 3 years from 2012 to 2015 before being upset by Boxing Hall of Famer Holly Holm. Rousey retired upon getting stopped by UFC great Amanda Nunes in late 2016, but she has been seen training in recent months, sparking speculation of a comeback bout. Rousey has remained coy on the topic. Although she won many of her UFC bouts by armbar submission, Rousey was schooled heavily in boxing by then-coach Edmond Tarverdyan in Glendale, California, and her confidence in fighting from the stand-up stance increased into her final bouts. So I guess the assumption is that if Ronda Rousey's coming back, she's coming back for a crossover boxing match. Crossover boxing match with Katie Taylor. And that's how these crossovers usually go. Usually it's the MMA fighter crossing over into boxing because boxing pays better, especially these days. Novelty fight that this might be. There was not a grassroots demand for this, for a Rousey versus Taylor fight. I can only deduce that if it is Netflix putting it together, given the size of their platform, that they have over 300 million subscribers all around the world, it'll be big just because they're the ones putting it together, if they are the ones putting it together. Would essentially combine 2 or 3 core demographics, 2 or 3 primarily, the boxing fans that watch Katie Taylor's fights, the MMA fans that have supported Ronda Rousey, however many of them are remaining, and of course the ones who followed her brief stint on the WWE. Taylor versus Rousey talk has drawn the interest of Netflix, said an official familiar with the talks, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they are unauthorized to speak publicly on negotiations. And given the success of Taylor versus Serrano as a main event, along with the intrigue in Rousey, the fight is being pursued as its own main event. The bout is being pegged as a summer event, the official said. Sounds like a one and done for Ronda, is what it sounds like. And it's not really a comeback then, is it? And if it's not a full-on comeback to combat sports, then there really is only so much you can expect from Ronda Rousey in this situation. She was never a boxer, you know. I mean, if you remember Ronda Rousey, her thing was judo, not striking. So the idea that now, at 38 years old, she's going to prepare for a boxing match against one of the best women boxers in the world, arguably the best woman boxer in the world. It's a cash out. There's no other way to look at it. It's not like this heralds Ronda's big return to combat sports or an extended campaign into the world of boxing. That is not what this is. It seems like a one and done for Ronda. And listen, if Netflix decides to put it together, I'll watch it just because it's on. That's the beauty of whatever Netflix decides to do in combat sports. So many people already have access to the platform. So many people are already subscribed. Whatever they do ends up being big. So if they want to do a Taylor versus Rousey crossover fight for next summer, yeah, I'll watch it. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, as I was recovering from a bad bout of bronchitis a few days ago, I saw that Terence Crawford had a rather lengthy rant on his social media, saying, "These motherfuckers be in your face when they see you, but be hating because you're doing something they couldn't do. I'd be happy for the generation after me to do big things, but it's a lot of fighters that came before me that be hating on the younger fighters." Terence continued, "Oscar De La Hoya said Manny Pacquiao would have beat me because he got stopped by him. Look, I would have fucked you up, Pacquiao, and whoever you thought would have beat me the fuck up. Just because I'm responsible doesn't mean shit. It's one thing to say, oh, Crawford can't beat this guy, he's going to get knocked out. I've been hearing that shit my whole life. And for some reason, when it be the other way around, they come up with a book of excuses." Do you agree with that? You think Terence would have knocked out Manny? We talking about in real time here, or we talking about a fantasy fight? We're talking about prime for prime. Because if we're talking about in real time, yeah, I think Manny Pacquiao was guided away from Terence Crawford. I don't think Manny wanted that fight. I don't think Manny's team wanted that fight for him. I remember how many times Freddie Roach expressed his concern over that fight and how he didn't want that for Manny. Coincidentally, it didn't happen. Terence continued, "I respect Manny, don't get it twisted, but he's been knocked out more than once. If you know boxing, then you know he would have had to take a lot of chances with me, and I'm definitely not the one to chance with if you know what you're watching. Just ask his coach." I find it crazy how people run with this Crawford don't sell bullshit. Any fighter I ever fought besides Amir Khan, when he fought Canelo, I was their biggest fight. But I can't sell, though. But none of these fighters could do what they did with me with other fighters, though. So I must be lost. How many times has Canelo fought in a stadium again? How many people attend with other fighters again? If he sells out shit on his own, why couldn't he do it with anyone else before me? He did do it without you. He did it with Billy Joe Saunders when he broke the indoor attendance record in this country. I think that Terence Crawford's ego is getting the best of him, at least in some portions of this rant. Some of it is true, some of it isn't. I think Terence is tired of being marginalized. So many people claiming that he doesn't sell. But near as I can tell, the biggest fight of Errol Spence Jr.'s career, for example, was the Crawford fight. That's the biggest fight that he did, that did the biggest gate and sold the biggest pay-per-view buys. It was the Crawford fight. Errol's numbers weren't actually looking all that good before that fight. And to date, that's the biggest fight that Errol ever had. Terence continued, "I am legend. What makes you think any of them would have beat me? Just like you probably was one of the ones thinking Canelo was gonna beat me. It's a reason they stayed away from me so long till they couldn't anymore. I've been a problem since day one, and they knew it. I'm the one they told y'all to stay away from." So I'll say this about Terence. He's got the career accolades, the credentials, to be a formidable player in several fantasy fights, fantasy situations. That if what you're imagining is a Crawford versus De La Hoya fight, for example, Crawford versus Pacquiao, while subject to some debate, Crawford has done enough that he's worthy of at least being in those conversations. Would seem that Terence Crawford, even being so accomplished, is still fighting for his just due and fighting for his respect, as he's had to do things all his own way. They didn't make it easy for him. Tried to stall his career, tried to freeze him out. They didn't make it easy for him. So that if now, close to the end, he's talking his shit, I don't really blame him, because they still try to disparage him whatever chance they get. He said, "There's a reason I never had a close fight, or a fight where people had to say a ref or judges, no drug allegations, helped me win. No controversy over here at all. Just hard work from the mud." To which a guy who goes by the name Dembo responded, "Bro thinks he's Mayweather," to which Terence responded, "I'm not, nor do I think I'm him at all. I'm a lot more dangerous than he is." Terence harbors a lot of animosity towards a lot of people. That's what comes across the most, and some of it is warranted, as he is easily one of the most marginalized fighters I've seen in the last 20 or 30 years of boxing. I mean, there's always an effort to scale down his victories and take him down a peg. There's always an angle, always an excuse. And that's where I think the rancor and the rage from him comes from. It's towards all those critics, all those naysayers, all those people that have tried to keep him down. There have been a lot of people who have had a lot of different things to say about Terence Crawford, but the reality of it, when he closes out his career, he will go down in history as one of the greatest fighters the sport has ever seen. It's just a question of how great. How high do you want to rank him on a all-time great list? But there is no question that based on what he's done, he belongs there. A few choice words for Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya this past week. He had a few choice words for the World Boxing Council, who decided to strip him of their WBC title for what they described as non-payment, which we talked about in a previous video. The connected story is that now that title will be on the line in the upcoming Sheeraz versus Mbilli fight. Britain Hamzah Sheeraz will fight for the vacant WBC super middleweight world title after Terence Crawford was stripped of the belt. Crawford won the belt from Canelo Alvarez in September after jumping up 3 weight classes to beat the Mexican and become the undisputed champion. The World Boxing Council have now stripped Crawford, with President Mauricio Suleiman claiming the American didn't pay his sanctioning fees. Sheeraz, 26, will take on Canada's Christian Mbilli for the vacant title in what will be his second world title bout and his first at super middleweight. His first was at middle against Carlos Adames. That didn't work out. His second crack at the apple will be this one. Slav fighter drew with the WBC middleweight champion Carlos Adames last February in an underwhelming performance over 12. Sheeraz is unbeaten in 23 fights, while 30-year-old Mbilli is also undefeated, with 29 wins and 1 draw on his record. A date for the contest has not yet been confirmed. Mbilli fought in September, while in July, Sheeraz moved up to super middle for the first time, knocking out Edgar Berlanga in 5 rounds. Crawford remains the WBA Super, WBO, and IBF super middleweight champion, but is yet to confirm his next move. So let's address the Crawford stuff. All right. I never thought that Terence was going to stay at super middleweight anyway, so at some point he was going to drop one or some of those belts. To me, it seemed like an eventuality, making all this hullabaloo about the green belt much ado about nothing. I think the main problem there is the World Boxing Council decided to go public with it, and sort of like Mauricio was trying to publicly castigate him for it, publicly shame him, and that's really what the nature of all of that is. There are some finer details that have since come out, like Terence Crawford did pay sanctioning fees for the other belts, and he was going to pay sanctioning fees for the World Boxing Council's belt, but they wanted more money than the other sanctioning bodies, and Terence was not on board with that. My thoughts on it: the sooner Terence drops those belts, the better, because one way or another, he's not staying at 168. Nobody is expecting him to, and the sooner he relinquishes those belts, the sooner all these other fighters at the weight can start fighting for them, and a new crop of champions can sprout. A new cycle of champions can be crowned, which is a good thing for this division. It's what you want to see. 168 is one of the deeper divisions in boxing right now. There are a lot of good fighters there, and the sooner that they have some belts to fight for, the better. More specific to the Sheeraz versus Mbilli fight, Mbilli was supposed to be fighting Lester the Molester Martinez per an order from the WBC. The same WBC that's sanctioning this fight between him and Hamzah for their vacant title. On the face of it, you ditched the rematch with Lester to go fight Hamzah. Is that a duck? There are certain elements there. Is Hamzah Sheeraz as formidable a super middleweight as Lester Martinez? Is he really, after just one win at the weight over Edgar Berlanga? The way I see it, Team Mbilli, after having that fight with Lester, they were not in any hurry to do that shit again. So in some ways, it is a duck, but I'm okay with it. I don't mind the Sheeraz fight. I like that fight. I like that it's for the WBC title, and it's a genuinely intriguing situation. So, Hamzah Sheeraz brings to the table more height and more length than anybody that Christian has fought so far. This is a very tall guy, even for super middleweight. What can make him a precarious target to get to is that height and that length. The saving grace for Christian is a come-forward pressure guy, fighting at a slight crouch, bending at the waist and knees, barreling forward, crashing the pocket. It's what he does. It's what he's good at. Christian has proven himself a durable fighter over time, absorbing hard punches from Carlos Gongara, more recently against Lester Martinez. He's got a chin, can take a punch. When barreling forward, he's proven a difficult man to discourage. And if he gets inside on Hamzah Sheeraz, that doesn't really favor Hamzah. At that proximity, he would be flustered. Close quarters favor the shorter guy with the shorter arms, as it's easier for them to string punches together, whereas the taller fighter with the longer arms, they need more room to work. So if Christian crashes the pocket and crowds Hamzah, could spell trouble for Hamzah. It's important not to read too much into Hamzah's big knockout win over Edgar Berlanga. Many of us saw that coming. Many of us predicted it. Credit to Hamzah for delivering on that, but that's the only fight that he's had as a super middleweight, is the knockout win over Edgar Berlanga, who nobody really thinks is any good. So when evaluating a Christian Mbilli fight, you have to understand this might turn out to be the most demanding fight of Hamzah Sheeraz's young boxing career so far, just as, if not more demanding, than the Carlos Adames fight was. And what did Carlos do to Hamzah? He crowded him. He crashed the pocket through combinations. What do you think Christian's gonna do? He's gonna do the same thing, except he's a bigger guy than a Carlos Adames. For me, it all boils down to a simple question. What is likelier than not? Is it likelier that Hamzah Sheeraz clips Christian Mbilli on the way in and puts him down, or is it likelier that Christian crashes the pocket successfully and outworks Hamzah Sheeraz from the inside out? What do you guys view as being more likely than not? Because we've seen enough of Christian to know what he's going to go out there and do, and we've seen enough of Hamzah. So based on everything you've seen, what is likelier than not to happen if and when they fight?